when we are compositing this, the software, the compositing software is actually smart enough to know when to remove this black background, or it knows exactly, or it knows, and let's say the software knows that we don't need this black areas, and just cuts out the the object alone using the alpha. The alpha channel is actually rendered automatically, so you need to not worry about that. So I'm just quickly going to show you guys how the render layers are created. So for example, if I go to my master layer and I select any part of my model, like example maybe the tires, I click multiple click on the tires, and then there's there are some buttons right here. There's move selection up, down, create new empty layer, and create a new layer and assign selected object. So this is what I want. So if I click on this, you can see at the top of the layer stack I have a new layer that contains only my tire. So that's just how easy it is. Then one thing you should know about render layers is and one thing that make them very powerful is you can actually assign shaders or materials to objects in a render layer without affecting other layers. So that's one very good part. So whatever material I apply to an object in this layer is applying it as an layer override. That's automatically. That means if I'm to assign a bling or a fong to this object, it doesn't necessarily like override the materials that I have in all other render layers. It's just specifically for that particular render layer. So that makes render layers powerful. So I'm going to delete that since I don't need it. Delete layer. So getting all my render layers out, my beauty, ambient occlusion, shadows. Most projects you might need more than this, but for what I'm working on, I basically think these three are enough and should do. So this is not going to be a tutorial about render layers or how you create them or how you create certain, like example the beauty layer is just the boss itself. Ambient occlusion is if you were to click any of the objects here, you can go to the attribute and you see that a surface shader was applied onto them on all the objects. Yeah, a surface shader. Then on the out color I applied an elementary ambient occlusion shader. Then the last one, which is the shadow, I applied a bling to the boss. Then the ground plane, I used a use background shader, turning on reflectivity and leave it only shadows. Then for the boss, I did a override to display only the ground plane. That means everything in this particular render layer is hidden except for the ground plane. But the trick here is, even though the boss is hidden, I did not switch off other elements like casting of shadows and receiving of shadows. So this boss is actually hidden, but it's still casting shadow. So what we just want to see is the shadow of the boss, not the boss itself. So that's why the boss is actually hidden in this layer. So that's how we get just the ground shadows alone. So that should be done. So after all the configuration of the render layers, you can now do a batch render. You render batch render. Batch render renders out all the active render layers in the scene and saves them out in the location specified. Or you can actually do a render yourself, and save them out individually. So when that is all done, before I actually move to Nuke, I'm just going to show you people what um or how I do my lighting. And for the lighting, I mostly just look into the backplate and try to get some clues, like where exactly is the light coming from, or the light direction. If you take a look at objects in the scene, like for example the tricycle in front of our bus, you can see it's very evident that the light is coming from the right side of this image, because the shadow cast is flowing towards that direction. And to simulate that, I have created a directional light with an intensity of 0.7, which is going to create our main shadows. That is like trying to replicate what we have in front here. Then I also have some area lights to simulate certain indirect lighting. All I'm just trying to do is match the lighting that we have on this tricycle. That's all. It's mostly artistic, and eye, yeah, you use your eye basically to kind of fine tune until you get what you want. Then if I'm to move to my perspective view, you can actually see this roundish stuff. That's our image based lighting, but that is very important. To match this, we have to use some sort of environmental lighting. So if this were to be like a real production house, and what we are going to do is, after taking this picture, that's the backplate, we take also a chrome shot, which is used for our image based lighting. But since this is a picture I just got off from the internet, i I used just a random HDRI that I had on my system, plugged it into this. As you can see, the image plane, plugged in an HDRI to just give us this lighting, environmental lighting. Since our bus is not really reflecting that much, we might get away with this. But normally, if it was going to be a very reflective object, we have to take a picture, or we have to take an HDR image of that particular environment, so that the reflection matches what we have in the environment. So that's pretty much everything to do in Maya. Let me see if I still have more time to look into certain things. Let's see. Okay, 8. So like 2 more minutes, I guess. If I have to go to my perspective view, here we can see the light, area light I had, the directional light, and basically then our image based lighting and an image plane. That's everything we have in the scene. So after rendering out our image, we are going to have three particular image coming out of this, which is beauty, ambient occlusion, and shadow. So once the rendering is done, we are now good to move to our external compositing software, which I'm going to be using is Nuke. You can use Photoshop, whichever one, but that's pretty much it. That's a pause. Okay guys, I'll see you guys in Nuke.